Hey dudes and dudettes, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast, a podcast chock full of everything that is nostalgic about the 80s, 90s, and more. This episode, we're kicking off the month of All Hallows Eve with a spooky and nostalgic lineup of Halloween-themed shows. Today, we're strapping on the superhero capes, throwing on our winter coats over the top of those winter capes, and jumping into Mom and Dad's car for a ride into trick-or-treating night to list our best, worst, and most envious Halloween costumes. So joining me on the Spooky Podcast is the host of the Halloween Podcast, where they discuss everything Halloween, including movies, sitcoms, history, and more. So I welcome the host, Lyle Perez.
Hey, Carlos. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. And just before we get into everything, of course, I always want to hear a little bit more about you. So tell us about you and your podcast and how it all got started.
Oh man, the Halloween podcast got started because I love Halloween. I've always loved Halloween since I was a little kid. Now I get to see my children enjoying Halloween, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't have that spark like it used to. So I wanted to do the Halloween podcast so people can kind of remember a lot of stuff from their childhood, remember that Halloween was a wonderful, magical time. But it seems like people kind of forgot that now. So I did the Halloween podcast so people can remember to listen, to have on guests, so people can share their memories, to share their own podcasts, because I got a lot of podcasters that go on my show, and we just go have a good time, talk anything Halloween. That's it.
Yeah, and so you talk about movies, sitcoms, history. So one of the most recent episodes was about Home Improvement, which is a one I just listened to the other day, and I've been enjoying it. And other thing too, you talk about Halloween history. So what's a favorite piece of Halloween history that you kind of came up on that kind of blew your mind?
We recently did one for the persecution of witches. There was a lot of stuff of witches that I didn't know, like how they were portrayed during the Salem witch trials. How's it going now? I had my friend Sarah come on for that one. She knows all about that stuff, so I had her on. We did that, and we also have another one coming up where we did the history of Dia de los Muertos, which is the Mexican version of Halloween.
Ooh, nice. And that's coming up, you said?
It's coming up towards the end of the month.
Cool, cool. And so the other thing I saw that you did, you have original stories, some narration. So is that how long you've been writing, or how long have you been doing the narration?
Oh, I've never done narration before. That was the first time I actually sat down and recorded myself reading something. I've shared this numerous times on all of my different shows. I had such a hard time reading when I was a kid. I had a learning disability. I couldn't read or write until I was in about eighth grade. A lot of people don't believe me when I say that, but trust me, it is true. I went all the way for whatever reason, I went all the way from first to eighth grade without knowing how to read and write properly. It wasn't until I got into high school, and then my homeroom teacher, Mr. Smith, he really helped me out, took me under his wing, and really helped me to get back on track. And then after that, after high school is when I really started to read more, and I started writing. I always wanted to write, but it wasn't until my early 20s, 23, 24, somewhere around there, when I started actually writing my own stuff. And I submitted it to publishers. I got a couple of things published here or there. But in more recent years, I haven't really done much writing. It was just a fun thing that I did in the past. But now I have like this huge log of short stories and novels and stuff that I've written that I haven't really done anything with. It's all on Amazon. I self-published a lot of stuff, so it's all up there. I got it all edited, cover arts, all that good stuff. So that's kind of what happened. So I had a lot of little short Halloween stories that I had written for a book that I was working on, like a children's Halloween scary book, kind of like Goosebumps and like Are You Afraid of the Dark type stuff. So I did that, and it never went anywhere. So when I did the Halloween podcast, I thought, well, I got to do 31 shows all in 1 month.
You
So
know what
what
to
could
fill
I
the
do?
time with.
Yeah, so I just started reading them, and then I put in like little scary noises, try to make things
Yeah,
interesting.
the atmosphere is perfect. It's like listening to like one of those old radio shows. The kids just like hover around the old radio and listen to the spooky sounds and the not creepy. Your voice is nice and soothing, but like if they add like the creepiness and like the thriller voice kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not really good at doing voices. So, I mean, every time I do a kid voice, it always sounds like this for whatever reason. I don't know why. So all of the kids sound the
Every
same.
every uh every version.
Yeah, and then they get higher pitched or they get lower pitched when it's an adult. So, I mean, I don't do narration, I never have. So, that's about the extent as everyone's going to get. But I have gotten a lot of compliments. Most of the time when I get emails, it's always for like the first one that came out, the Lighthouse. That one, I got like 5 messages from people saying, "Hey, that's a fun story. I really liked it. Your voice is very like not soothing, not scary. It's just perfect for that story." And I said, "Oh, thanks. I mean, I don't like my voice, but
No one
that's
ever.
just
Every
what
time I
comes."
hear my voice, I'm like, please stop saying stuff.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like every single time I hear my voice. But no, people are enjoying it. I'm glad. Actually, for today, another short story that I did came out, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just another aspect to the podcast. So anyone who checks out on Twitter or anywhere else, you can definitely find those short stories. We'll get them all plugged toward the end of the show. But getting into what we're here for, Lyle, is we're gonna rock out some Halloween costumes. So Halloween, as you know, and you talked about earlier, has always been made out to be a magical time during our childhood. Of course, you know, we probably 80s, 90s kids, we were probably in the heyday of Halloween. It was kicking off the holiday season. You know, you had Halloween, then you had Thanksgiving, then you had Christmas and New Year. So it's just like it's just a perfect cocktail of holidays to start out with. And of course, it always made it better when like your school or your neighborhood or your friends and family got into the spirit of it. So even your teachers and parents dressing up with something like characters that you maybe had never seen, or maybe we were too young to get the joke. But did your schools or your neighborhoods, they really get into Halloween?
My neighborhood, I didn't live in a neighborhood. I lived in, I called it an alley because that's pretty much what it was. It was an alley with 4 different houses on it, and then there was a long road. So I only had like the neighbors next to me, and they were never any kids. So I didn't have the experience of being in an actual neighborhood all the time. But my grandma's house, on the other hand, was in a neighborhood, and there's where I went for most of my Halloween experiences. So I had a lot of fun because there was kids everywhere, and there was people. Not that many adults were in costume, but I mean, every other house was giving out candy. It wasn't like now where you have to walk 5 houses down for somebody to be handing out candy. It was every other house was at least candy. So that was always a good time. But yeah, never lived in a neighborhood, sadly.
Yeah. Well, what about schools too? Does your classroom or your school get into it, or is it more of like a one-off thing?
School, I remember the most things from school because sometimes they would let us wear costumes to school, and then other times they wouldn't. When I got closer to like middle school ish, I think they would only let you dress in costume if you were like part of the contest. So you had to, yeah. So you had to be entered into the contest in order for you to be able to wear your costume, and it had to be a full costume. It couldn't just be you in a mask just to try to get out of PE or whatever you were doing. It had to be a full on costume. So it's elementary school, pretty much every single Halloween, I could remember that they would let you dress up. But as you got older, I mean, obviously nobody went into high school with a costume on, except for 1 or 2 girls in questionable outfits. But I mean, that's just what it was in high school.
Or the occasional juggalo would
Yeah.
show up. So no, it's a similar situation with me. You know, growing up, in elementary school, we definitely got to dress up every Halloween. We do trick or treating to each classroom, and sometimes the classrooms would be like, there'd be events like bobbing for apples in one classroom. One classroom would be like a haunted classroom. So they kind of make it events. The gymnasium was made into something. So there was always like kind of a big deal. But as we got older, like 6th, 7th grade, it's like, okay, like less and less. We'll hand you a candy bar at the end of the day, kind of a thing. And then, like you said, once we got to high school, it was like they completely outlawed masks by that time. There's like, if you're gonna wear something, it has to be just like a shirt or the dress or something. It can't be. They got real strict with it. So of course people are just like, I'm not even gonna try. Or like you said, it was the occasional girl in a questionable outfit, or the juggalos just kind of taking advantage of their non-holiday, I guess. So and then I guess for my neighborhood too, I did live in a street that had a fair amount of kids, and the same thing. Like every house seemed to have decorations and candy bars. And now I talk to my parents and I'm like, hey, how was it this year? It's like, oh, well, there's only about 3 or 4 lights on the neighborhood, and we only had maybe a handful of kids come throughout the night. So it's just like, it's discouraging to hear, but I just it's just a different time and different era.
Yeah, different time, different era. Uh, I always said that Halloween was, like I said, a magical time. So I don't know if it was because my young mind is remembering it like that, or if it was really what it is now. Just I don't remember it that way because I was small, running around everywhere, so I didn't really pay attention. But who knows? Who really knows?
And I think part of it too was the hype build up from Nickelodeon.
Hey, Stick Stickly here, and you can tell by my set that Halloween is coming soon. Ha! Anywho, what was that? I'm not scared. Oh, not me.
Watch Nick in the Afternoon's Halloween Treat this Monday at 3, 2 Central.
Nickelodeon always built up, the holidays, especially Halloween. So they'd be running all kinds of Halloween themed commercials. They had, we had our Rugrats, our Doug themed, Halloween themed episodes, and then they would have Mr. Stick Stickly or whatever doing his contest. We had to call in or answer the phone. So they just had all kinds of hype built around Halloween for us kids. So I think that just, like you said, made that a little more magical. But what also made Halloween extra magical was whether or not you had the right costume. So now we're getting into listing our sets of costumes. So we have 3 sets. We're gonna go envious first. Envious costumes, ones that we saw friends or family or others wearing that we wish we had. And then we're gonna go our worst costumes, ones that just we thought were gonna be hit home runs and just didn't quite make it. And then we're gonna go our best costumes, ones that just knocked it out of the park. So we're gonna start out with envious costumes because every year, no matter how awesome we think our own costumes are, there was always one out there that we had our eyes on that we wish we could have had. So I'll list off my 3. I'll list off one, and then you list off one. We'll list off our 3 going back and forth. So one of my ones that I picked out was ninjas. Ninjas were huge in the early 90s. Karate, ninjas, everything. So what was a better excuse to disguise yourself in all black ninja mask, carrying around your plastic katana blade and nunchucks and throwing stars while at school? So whenever I got to see kids in full ninja outfits, like the legitimate ones, not like the sweatpants and like a hoodie type of one, but like the legitimate ninja outfits, I was truly jealous because I remember watching all kinds of kung fu movies and, of course, all Ninja Turtles and things like that. You just wanted to be a ninja. So, like I said, seeing that outfit and never having the full, authentic one really got to me. Were you a ninja fan growing up?
Oh, who wasn't a ninja fan growing up? Man, I can remember doing kicks and doing the Karate Kid Krang move and watching Three Ninjas, Surf Ninjas, you name it. Any of those movies, I was all in. And my mom saw that and she said, I don't know if I like you watching those. And I said, well, I'm going to watch them anyways. And I said, can you get me in karate? And she told me absolutely no. And I said, okay, well.
She crushed it early.
Yeah, she got rid of it. And then, but I started watching the Ninja Turtles and mimicking their moves, so it kind of worked out fine.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things, parents. It's inevitable. Just let it happen sometimes. So ninjas was my first one for envious. Not the winner, but one of 3. Which one's your first one?
Let's see. My first one would have to be anything scary because my mom, she wouldn't let me pick out a scary costume. So when I would go to like the Spirit store or whatever Halloween store that they had when I was a kid, I don't remember if it was Spirit or Halloween Express, whatever it was, she wouldn't let me pick out anything scary. Like I'd walk around and there'd be these cool masks, devil masks, scary clowns, vampires, anything like that. She wouldn't let me touch. Like I remember one year I wanted to be like this werewolf, and it had a cool werewolf mask, and it had like a puffy outfit, and my mom told me no. But now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure it was less that the costume was scary and more that the price tag was way out of her budget.
That's probably most decisions were made, and we just never thought. We were like, they're so mean. No, they just didn't want to pay that much money.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Now that I'm an adult of 3 kids, and I just took my daughter not too long ago to go get her costume, and it was $30. It's $30 for a costume, and she's only gonna wear it once. It's made out of like cheesecloth, so I'm like, man, $30 down the tube, and now I got to do it for 2 more kids of equal or lesser value. I'm gonna.
You got to invest in a sewing kit.
Oh, good thing my wife is handy with all those things. She's crochets and she does all that stuff. So anytime anything needs sewing, I just give it to her. And whenever she's got time, but she takes care of 3 kids, so she never has time. So the stuff never gets done. But I mean, that's how it goes.
Hey, no, that's understandable. But yeah, it's the scary stuff. I can still smell the plastic from all those scary masks when you walk
Mm.
into the Halloween shop and you start trying them all on. I do remember. I never. The scary masks were too much for me. I would enjoy seeing them, but I just could never go as one. So I can see the envy for sure. So we have ninjas and we have scary masks or scary costumes as our first ones. My next one
Hmm.
would be Power Rangers. So kind of falling in line with ninja stuff and popularity. The height of Power Rangers was in my elementary school. So like the trouble with the real authentic Power Rangers is that you needed those spandex and like a full-on helmet, but they weren't going to sell that in kid versions, especially for Kansas winter nights. Those spandex were not going to hold up. And but I just remember any kid who showed up donning that Power Ranger suit, any color, didn't matter which one it was the envy of that day, because sometimes you would see maybe 2 or 3 and maybe the same one, but if you saw somebody come as the Green Ranger, Red, or the White Ranger, that's when like it all blew up, because it had the extra accessories, it had the full-on outfit. So I just remember seeing that full outfit, wanting it, but the only ones that were available for kids were like the sweatpants version with like the the mask with the super tiny rubber band to go around the back of your head thing. So
Yeah.
just didn't quite live up to the authentic one that you always wanted. But Power Rangers, just growing up as a Power Rangers fan, of course, any kid wanted to dress up. Were you probably a Power Rangers fan?
I definitely was a Power Rangers fan, but I was a closet Power Rangers fan because in my school, Power Rangers were not cool. And if you loved Power Rangers, you would be made fun of. So I would secretly go home, watch, Power Rangers. I have a funny story about that though. Power Rangers, I loved it for, I don't know, I think I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, whenever they were being really big. And at one point, I think it was at the end of the first season, before the White Ranger came about, the Green Ranger like did something to the command center, and it was just like all tore up, and then that's how they ended it, and it was a to be continued. So for that entire time until I waited for the new Power Rangers to start coming out, I wanted to talk about that so bad with somebody at school, but I didn't want to bring it up because I wasn't going to get made fun of. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, with how many nerds are hanging around now, everyone seems to have a podcast. I'm pretty sure all of the kids from my old school are probably in a podcast somewhere talking about how much they loved Power Rangers and they wanted to talk about it, but they couldn't because they didn't want to get made fun of. But man, I wanted them to love it as much as I did.
All those
Because,
closeted
man,
experiences from Power Rangers, just waiting to let loose. I'm sure you probably, the only person you probably could have talked to was the teacher. It's like, why is this kid talking to me about Power Rangers? He can't talk to his friends about this. I could definitely. There's definitely a few things in my school that were off limits. I can't remember what else was, but yeah, there are a few things that you had to be closeted for sure in regards to your fandom. My last of the 3 envious costumes would be Buzz Lightyear.
And you, my friend, are responsible for delaying my rendezvous with Star Command.
You are a toy! You weren't the real Buzz Lightyear, you're an action figure! You are a child's plaything!
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell.
Because Toy Story, because Toy Story, I've definitely enjoyed the movie when it came out, but everybody wanted to. Well, I guess not everybody wanted, but the least expensive of the 2 costumes was the Woody costume. So going back to our finances here, Woody was definitely less expensive than the Buzz Lightyear. But if you got the Buzz Lightyear, it was pretty legit. Like you had, they had the little cover for your head, the little wings. You had little voice box that said stuff. So it's just like it was just another one. Like the features made it. It looked okay, but the features that came with it was just like an action figure that came with all kinds of guns and little toys, and
lasers.
Everything. So just seeing the Buzz Lightyear one on a few kids throughout elementary school definitely threw up my jealousy flag for sure. Buzz Lightyear, were you ever did you own any of the Buzz Lightyear toys or Woody toys, any of those?
I didn't start liking Toy Story until I'd say high school. I mean, I have so many stories about my childhood that I can just continue on forever. But Toy Story is one of those that kind of makes me sad. Um, because when the second movie came out was the same exact time that my parents divorced, and we had to stay at like one of my cousin's house, my mom, my little brothers and sister, because we were like hiding from my dad. And the only movies they really had was like Toy Story 2 and Mission Impossible. So those two movies I watched constantly because I didn't go to school for that whole week that we were gone, and just sitting inside that house doing nothing, just watching those two movies over and over again kind of made it seem like Toy Story is not as happy as it once was for me.
I know it's understandable for sure.
But yeah, that's a good choice though, Buzz Lightyear.
Well, just to say he's jumping into it, he's not my number one pick, and I'll just jump into my number one pick was I'm gonna go with ninjas because just I still to this day just want that authentic outfit with the mask that goes over your face, the hood, and then like you said, you get the little throwing stars, your sword, and be able to do the flips and stuff like that. It's just a whole package kind of thing. Power Rangers is great, but at this point, I go to enough Comic Cons. I see plenty of adults in their full on Power Ranger outfits, and some look great in them. No, some not so much. So I have a feeling that I may fall into the mid level where I think I look great in it, but probably doesn't. Yeah, I think Ninja for me would be probably the least craziest option at this point in time to see if I could definitely pull off. What would your number one envious costume be?
Let's see. There was at one point where, in my younger days, I was a huge rock and roll fan, and it didn't get much better than Kiss. So to watch anyone be inside like a Gene Simmons full-on makeup costume or Paul Stanley, that was very envious to me because I always wanted to do that. Never had enough funds to come up with a good like actual costume for it. And you could find people that can do the makeup for you, but last time I checked, they charge you about $60 to put on full makeup on for you of whoever you wanted. So it'd be $60 plus. I mean, they wore heels, and they wore leather and all this black stuff. So it's kind of like you can't really find that stuff anywhere. That's like specialty stuff that you gotta either, I don't know, Hot Topic might have something like that or anything. But that would be my most envious costume, is being somebody from Kiss.
That is awesome. Who, if you got the paint job, who would it be? Which Kiss member?
Let's see. It would have to be, if I wanted to go more scarier, it would be Gene Simmons. But if I wanted to go with something more goofier, it would have to be Paul Stanley, because he always wore... No, the cat is Peter Criss. yeah, the Star Child. Paul Stanley would have to be the number one choice if I'm going funny, because he always wore the low-cut stuff, and he had all that chest hair, so you could obviously put like all that chest hair on and all that stuff and be more funny. His movements were more feminine. So that's what you would do for more funny. But scarier wise, you got to go Gene Simmons, because the tongue and the blood and all that stuff.
Yeah, maybe I think Mom might go against the breathing flames, but everything else maybe.
Yeah, and if you wanted to go cute, I mean, Peter Criss would be next, and then Ace Frehley would be the fourth choice apparently. And he's the only one I've met. Unfortunately, actually, I met him at a convention, and Peter Criss was at another convention. I didn't get to meet him, but I did see him walking around, and he always had this really hot chick with him.
I mean, yeah. I think that just comes standard. When it's like if you're a Beatle or a Kiss member, you just have to have a hot woman with you at one point or another. But all right, well, that's our envious costumes. Now we're gonna jump in. What do you think? Should we do best or worst first? Next.
I say we save the best for last. So let's go worst.
So we'll go worst costumes. So what's your first round of worst costumes?
All right. So my number 3 pick, which is the last one, is the year that I went as a clown. And you got to remember, my dad wasn't the best dad in the world. And he was drunk most of the time. So it's not like I went trick-or-treating all the time. And my mom was a really hard worker. She was always working. So she would work nights most of the time. So for trick or treating to happen, it would have to be with my dad. And this one year, I got a clown costume, and I needed somebody to put the makeup on, but my dad wouldn't put the makeup on me. Like, he just said, "Nope, I don't do that." The only thing he did was, put like a little bit of my mom's lipstick on my nose. And they didn't get me the shoes, so I had to wear my dad. He was a construction worker, so he had those huge like leather boots and stuff. So I would wear those because at the time he was probably about 6 sizes in front of me, so it looked more comical. But they were all dirty, full of concrete, and it was also around the same time where Homie the Clown was very popular.
Homie don't play that.
Homie does not play that. So I had a sock that was full of my dad's dirty socks because that's all I could find that were long enough. And I walked around with that, with a little lipstick on my nose and my dad's dirty boots. And we went trick-or-treating. We went to about 5 or 10 houses until we got into the car. And he took me somewhere else, some weird spot where he was like, he was like hitting on some chicks or something.
So go check out those 3 houses now, ladies.
Yeah, that my dad is still like that to this day. I saw him probably about a week ago, and he was still like that. And I'm like, oh man, Dad, you got to grow up.
You can't take the dog out of the neighborhood, I guess. You can only take the dog out of the neighborhood sometimes.
Yeah, but yep, the year I went as a clown is my 3rd worst choice.
That's funny because mine is similarly. It's a type of a clown. It's a rodeo clown.
Oh man.
So we're going, and this is another dad-based one as well. So Dad was tasked with this year. I think Mom was out of town or something. He had a couple years where he was in charge, and nothing will confuse anybody, children and adults, in seeing a child dressed as a rodeo clown, because you got to wear like overalls. You're not wearing like the standard. Your face looks similar, but your clothes are completely different from a regular one. And not only that, am I wearing overalls and a cowboy hat and all this good stuff, but I gotta haul around this giant barrel because, of course, rodeo clowns are jumping in and out of those barrels. So my dad thought this prop was necessary for Halloween, for an 8-year-old to drag around the neighborhood a 15-pound barrel. He's like, "Oh yeah, whenever you ring the doorbell, jump in it and then jump back out." I was like, "That's not gonna get old for me to do for the first few houses." So yeah, it did get old pretty quick, and it. People got it, but it was just a hassle, and I hated every minute of it. I was like, "Dad, just because you like rodeos doesn't mean I like rodeos." So it was one of those dad forced his influence on me. So the rodeo clown will live on in infamy.
Yeah, as the 3rd worst choice for you.
As the 3rd worst choice. So what's your next one?
Let's see. For my 2nd one is one that I wore when I was a little older. I'd say probably within the past 10 years I wore this one. I was working for a company called Berg Electric, and they had like this costume contest where each section or whatever, like the AP department, the HR department, they all went as like a group costume, and my department was like different generations, and for whatever reason I ended up with the 80s, and I couldn't think of anything. I was like, what could I do by 80s? I was thinking like punk rocker, but then I was like, no, that went into the 90s too, and somebody else went as like a rapper for the 90s. So I'm like, what am I going to do for the 80s? And then all of a sudden I saw Miami Vice, and I said, Don Johnson, that is the costume right there. So I spent days looking for a white suit. I went to every thrift store I could find. I went everywhere. I couldn't find anything. Eventually, I settled for like a Scarface white costume, like that white suit that he wore. That was a costume. I just grabbed that, and I found a pink shirt. I wore loafers with no socks. I had a mullet and everything. And that was probably the worst thing I could have ever put together, because I didn't even want to do that. But we all had to go as like, the department had to be a department costume. So that's what we picked. That's what I went as, and it was a nightmare to try to find that stuff.
You should have just walked in blasting over a boombox, Phil Collins coming in the air tonight.
I was. That would have made the outfit, but unfortunately, everyone confused me for a doctor. I don't know why.
Like just an eccentric, egotistical doctor you guys are confusing me with, because this guy's wearing a pink shirt under his blazer. Like
I don't know. And I had the rolled up sleeves and everything.
What about the 5 o'clock shadow? The Don Johnson 5 o'clock shadow?
No, I can't grow a beard. There's no way I can do
I'm the
that.
same way. I'm jealous. And if anyone has a 3 o'clock shadow, I'm like, I'm jealous. I can't even get a 2 o'clock one. So yes,
Yeah.
no. Anytime that I could strap on a fake beard or mustache, I'm all over it, just so I can see what could have been if I could grow a mustache or a beard. So,
Yeah.
Don Johnson, that's surprisingly one that I can't believe didn't go over, especially for people who are picking genres of of decades. They should have known. Somebody should have known. So, well,
Shit.
jumping into my number 2, this one's back to back. Dad. This is a dad task here as well. I was G.I. Joe American Hero.
G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe is there. It's G.I. Joe against Cobra, the enemy, fighting to save the day. He never gives up, he's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I. Joe.
I think I was like first grade or so, and this one, my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take over on this one's my wheelhouse." But he also forgot that shopping was not his wheelhouse, so everything was created from something in our house. So it ended up being like one of his old like camo shirts that didn't fit me with like khakis and snow boots, and he smeared like some oil on my face. And I had like a cowboy hat instead of a beret. I'm like, who the hell am I, Dad? And I just remember he literally had to explain every single house. They're like, "Oh, is he? Is a cowboy hat? Campbell? What is he?" And my dad, "Oh, GI Joe." I'm like, "Okay, all right, here you go." And I just remember being like, "Damn it, Dad, never again." But that was before Rodeo Clown, so it would happen again eventually.
It would happen again eventually because he dressed you up as a GI No.
Oh man, he really knew how to threw curveball to everybody. So GI Joe American Hero, I was not quite the real American hero, but I was something. So so now we're down to the number 1 worst costume. What's your number 1 worst costume?
Number 1 worst costume has to be when I didn't go as anything at all. That has to be the worst
Well, the
costume.
Jim Halpert, I'm me.
No, it was more or less of I'm poor, I can't afford a costume, so give me some candy, please. And it worked. People gave me candy, but it was the worst thing ever.
I had a few though, like when teenagers would show up and do that, you like get the hell out of it. But if it's a kid, you just kind of you feel bad. You're like, here, take some extra candy. Here you go. Here, I think we have some extra pot roast. You want some pot roast? We'll give you some of that. So that might actually be the better angle to go with. Like, oh, I couldn't get one this year, but just love hanging out with my friends and trick or treating. I was like, damn it, take the whole bowl of candy.
Take the whole bowl. Just go. Get out of here.
I love you. Just take it all. So yeah, no, that would be going as yourself. Or I had a few friends who were the smart guy or funny guy. It's like, I'm myself, or they put on like one piece of thing like on their t-shirt and call themselves something like, yeah, this is not quite the effort you're looking for. So for me, my number 1 worst costume would have to be Ted Theodore Logan from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes! Excellent!
How could that be the worst? How?
I'll tell you why, because I tried this costume multiple times in my lifetime. So I was heavily influenced by Bill and Ted growing up. I got into playing guitar because of them. I'd always try to grow my hair out like Ted, and even my previous podcast or YouTube channel was Circuits of Time review, sort of the Bill and Ted reference there. And I just remember scouring the thrift stores like you talked about before, like trying to find that perfect outfit, look exactly like Ted. And then I get to school, and it's kind of hard to play off Bill and Ted with just Ted, and nobody really has seen the movie when you're like in 3rd grade. So everyone's like, "Who the hell are you?" And teachers are like, "What are you? Are you a surfer?" I'm like, "No, I'm Ted." I try to act like him, do like the air guitar stuff. Never got to anybody. So that was a failure. Then flash forward 10 years in college when I tried again. And this time, my 2 buddies and I tried it. My other buddy, Zach, was Bill, and my buddy, Freddie, shaved his head and painted himself white to be Death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Duke of Smooth, the Doc was shocked, man with no tan. Please say hello to Death himself, the Grim Reaper! sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the reaper.
So we went to a house party as the trio, thinking this is gonna be a hit. Everyone's gonna know who we are. This is gonna be awesome. Same situation. Nobody knows who the hell we are, and girls were super creeped out by my friend Freddie because he was just all whited out, shaved head, and like just people just like, what the hell is going on here? So it was just a bad experience altogether, dressing up as Ted. So I don't know if I may try it again in the future, but it's gonna have to be for like a dedicated '90s party, people who know who the hell I'm gonna be.
Yeah, I think if you probably did it in the next couple of years, since nostalgia is so big right now, you would get a lot of hits from it.
Yeah, like I said, this was like 2006 or 7, so like it wasn't, the nostalgia bubble didn't really quite hit. People were still like, you watched that movie? What? Like, no, it was cool. It's like part of my life.
Yeah, now it's the ending to do. Anything nerdy, I mean, you'll be right in there. You'll find.
Exactly. So yes, even though it is a great concept, it was not a great execution of the Ted Theodore Logan costume. So that's my worst costume. So now we're gonna jump into our best ones, but we have one Twitter shout out. We got the Twitter shout outs late today, so we only had one response, and it was from our good friend Alexa from You Can Rewind It podcast, from at You Can Rewind It, and she said, in 3rd grade, I was a bridesmaid, and it was my mom's dress from the 70s, ice blue with matching hat and bouquet of flowers picked from the yard. Really sad. And yeah, I think I responded, and I'm expecting to see a picture at this point, Alexa. So we'll be waiting for that picture for proof. But we talked about our dads dressing us up? Was there anything like mom tried to put you in something that you just like, there's no way in hell I'm wearing this, mom?
I can't remember. I mean, most of the time, if my parents were going to put me in something, they did. It wasn't something that I had anything to say with. But some of the costumes that my mom put together, which is on my best list, they were actually pretty good.
All right, well, we're going to waste no time. So thanks for the Twitter shout-outs, Alexa. We appreciate it. And we're going to get right into our best costumes. So I'll start out with my 3rd best costume. Mine was Batman.
What are you? I'm Batman.
Because nothing can explain the 90s more than a Batman costume. Batman mania in full effect. I couldn't get enough of it. Either I was renting that movie every week from the VHS store or buying up the toys, and now dressing up for the Dark Knight. And my sister was Catwoman the same year as well, so it was like a double duo thing. And I just remember like the little chest plate that came with it, the cape, and the mask as a kid fit me so perfectly that I'd wore it like 2 or 3 months after Halloween while I would watch the movie every time, and just absolutely loving that costume. And I think I still have the mask and maybe the chest plate, but I just like, it was one of those costumes that you just like, I will never get rid of this, and hopefully my kid will get to wear it at some point, but I don't think that's gonna happen, but hopefully it'll stick around for a while. But the Batman costume was was mine. Did you ever dress up as the Cape Crusader?
I never did. I wasn't much into the superhero stuff then. It's kind of something that I grew into now. Now, I mean, if I see somebody in like a full-on Iron Man costume, I'm so jealous.
You just think of like the time and effort. You're like, they're just so dedicated.
Yeah, so dedicated. I mean, last year I saw somebody in a full-on stormtrooper outfit, and he was walking around everywhere, and everyone was like looking at him, going, "Whoa! It looks like something that it came right out of the movie." And I was like, "Whoa, that's cool." But no, superheroes as a kid, it didn't really happen for me. I do remember watching like Spider-Man, the animated series, Batman, and all that stuff, but I wasn't really into it as much as like other stuff. It was just something to watch on Fox when I got home from school.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't for everybody. It's just one of those that caught my attention early on, and with that 1989 Batman when it came out, it just blew up. And I think when they spend like $300 million on advertising, it pays off.
Mm-hmm. Definitely does.
So, what's your third best costume?
My 3rd best costume is the year that my mom finally let me be something semi-scary, and I went as Dracula because I don't know why. Maybe she wanted to put me in a suit, but I had the full-on suit. I had the cape. I had the fangs. No white makeup or anything on my face, but my mom sent me to 7th grade like that, and I remember it was 7th grade because my 7th grade PE teacher is the one that was adamant to get me to win that costume contest. Mrs. Miller, and I saw Mrs. Miller probably I don't know, 6 years ago at a different school. I was doing a school reading or something for one of my kids' books at a school, and she was the PE teacher. And I looked at her and I said, "Mrs. Miller, I know you. You made me win that that costume contest." She didn't remember who I was, but I mean, this was probably 12 years ago, 15 years ago, somewhere around there. So it was quite a while. Um, but yeah, Mrs. Miller, she made me win that costume dressed as Dracula, full cape costume or suit and everything.
Did you have the slick back hair and everything as well?
I did slick backed hair and everything, and she wanted me to. She kept telling me like this whole time, you need to do like a little move with your cape or something, and I was like, I was like, no. She probably thought, little, I don't know, 10-year-old me inside a full on suit with a cape. She was like, oh, this is a cute little kid. He's in a suit. I'm like,
Well, nice. Yeah, no, Dracula. I didn't honestly didn't see too many Draculas growing up. Like authentic ones. And like you said, like you probably had like the red the cape that had the red inside and had the slick back hair and the teeth and everything. Oh, I saw him here and there, but Dracula, I never thought about being Dracula. It's not that I didn't like it or didn't think the costume was bad. It's just one thing I never thought of. I think I was just so infatuated with like Batman and Turtles and Ghostbusters and stuff like that I was just like, that's what I want to be. So, well, but Dracula is a solid choice as well. So, jumping into my number 2 best costumes is we're gonna go Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Heroes in a half shell.
One year, my mom got me the Leonardo costume. So this is early '90s, folks. So you have to remember they're not as advanced as the ones they are now. This one was literally like cloth. Like you be draped over like kind of like a poncho over your head, and you'd have your front shell, and then the back shell was like a little poofy thing. But attached to that was like a hood thing that you put over your like a green cap that it made you look like you had a turtle head and everything like that. And it came with this Leonardo swords and everything like that. For as basic and amateur as it was, I loved it, and it was another costume that I would wear while watching the movies afterwards. So it's one of those costumes I think is also in a box downstairs, just because I never want to get rid of that costume. It's just so special to me. I remember just going crazy. My mom taking a picture of me in my room with all my character posters and figures out. So it's just true and near and dear to my heart with nostalgia, and I just remember loving that. My mom brought it home and putting it on. So the Leonardo TMNT costume was mine, and I can't remember. Do we say you were into Turtles as well, or no?
I do love turtles, but again, I mean, a lot of stuff from my childhood is getting taken over by tragedy because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I remember watching it all the time as a kid. I used to watch it with my cousin, and he sadly is no longer with us. So now every time I watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it kind of makes me sad. So I can't watch it anymore.
No, sorry to hear that. It
So
sucks.
I know, like all of the good stuff in my childhood is being taken over by stupid tragedies.
Well, we had to find some new nostalgic stuff for you to get into, so you can get those great memories going back.
Yeah, that's what I need. That's exactly what I need.
Well, nice. Well, we're down to it. We're down to our number 1 best costume. So let's hear what your number 1 best Halloween costume of all time has been.
Well, I haven't done my second one yet.
Oh man, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Sorry. What's your second one? Whew.
My second one is going to make you very envious because it was part of your envious costumes. I went as a full-on ninja one year. Yep, my mom, she sewed me like one of those head garment things that covers everything except for the eyes. She found me like all this black, very slick stuff that she put on me. I had the sword, I had nunchucks, I had throwing stars, the whole nine. The only thing that my mom didn't like about it is that I was completely black. So if I was walking across the street, no one would be able to see me. So she made me wear like these glow sticks or something like that. But I mean, it kind of ruined the costume because I wanted to be full on black. No one can see me. I just pop in, grab the candy, and then puff of smoke, and I'd be gone. But it didn't work out that way because my mom made me wear those glow sticks. But my mom,
Better than the starter jacket over the top.
yeah, my mom spent hours on that thing, so I had to go with whatever she said. But yeah, the year I went was Ninja is my number 1, my number 2 choice.
Well, you're right, because I am jealous. Because, like I said, I think try it off Halloween. I would be like, oh yeah, watch a ninja movie. Let me put on my hoodie and black sweatpants. Just didn't have the same feel when you see somebody had that fitted, just right outfit. So I definitely would have been jealous had I seen you walking around the ninja, or even disappearing in puffs of smoke as a ninja in the neighborhood. So yeah, ninja's a solid number 2. So I did not. Okay, so I did not my number 2. So I'm on to my number 1 best costume. This one is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
God, this is not the time, Mace. If Einhorn come down here and see me talking to you or your ass, I'm history.
Alrighty.
Nice.
This is the year 1994, the year Jim Carrey. You know, he had the Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura. Yeah, all in the same year. It's just crazy. And I was so committed. I dressed as Ace Ventura when he was committed to the insane asylum. So I had the tutu and I had the crazy boots and the hair going. And I would just play football by myself with people's bushes like he did in the movie.
Asylum.
Oh yeah, I'm like hut 2, hut 3, and people were just like, what the hell's wrong with this kid? While my parents are standing over the sidewalk, just be like, yeah, just give him some candy and we'll move on. But I just remember going to one of my best friend's house, and he didn't go out that year, but he answered the doorbell and he saw me, and it was our favorite movie. So I got to act out the whole scene in his front yard. So I just remember getting a lot of good reaction from parents. There did a lot of parents that year did know who I was and were getting a good crack out of it. So I just remember having a real good time jumping around people's yards as crazy Ace Ventura that one year in 1994. So thanks, Mom, for letting me be a crazy ass Ace Ventura that one year.
Ace Ventura, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I'm pretty sure if you probably did it now, I don't know how many people would actually get it. Sad thing.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't quite stick out. It was that perfect year, the perfect timing, perfect year. So Ace held up. So now we are finally into your number 1. So what is now your number 1 costume?
Let's see. The number 1 has to be the year that I went as Zorro.
Give me the courage, strength to wear the mask a little longer. Allow Zorro one last ride.
Now, this was another mom creation costume, and mind you, I was very young. I think I was maybe 5 or 6, somewhere around there. So I didn't really know who Zorro was, but we saw the mask at like a thrift store, and my mom's all like, "That's what you're gonna be." And then she like grabbed the mask. She found like a sombrero. I had like a bandana as like a cape or something, and I had the sword and everything. And she would tell me, "You have to go like this with your sword," and then she'd make the Z, and I'd be like, "I don't know what I'm doing," and but I remember going to like my aunt's house and stuff dressed as Zorro, and they loved it. They were all, hugs and kisses everywhere. "Oh, he's so cute," and all that good stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what I am. But now when I think back at it, I'm like, oh yeah, that one year I went as Zorro. That was a good time because, all my family loved it and everyone loved it. So it was a good time. Good
was
costume.
that before or after the Antonio Banderas one?
It was before. Because it was, I think this was probably 1990 when it came out. When I did it.
Mom was like, "Well, he could just be like Antonio Banderas, and we'll dress him up as Zorro, and he'll look all handsome and stuff."
No, I don't know what sparked it. It might have been something from my mom's childhood that she wanted to just throw on me, because I don't remember anything like that when in like the early 90s, other than the Zorro movie with Antonio Banderas. But I think I was in middle school for that. So I don't know where that came about or why she even wanted to do that for me. Because like I said, I didn't know who Zorro was at the time. I still don't really know who Zorro is other than Antonio Banderas. But I mean, or other than... Other than the guy.
Just it was on sale that day, and Mom was like, "Yep, that's it."
Yeah, it could have been, but the only thing I remember was just seeing the mask. That's all, like nothing else, and she threw everything else together.
Well, she knew she could be creative, so she's like, "We're running with this one."
Yeah, but yeah, that's my mom.
Well, awesome. Well, Zorro is a solid one, and like you said, every time you watch the movie, you can just think of that time that you had all those hugs and kisses from everybody from being the Mexican Cape Crusader.
Yeah, I still get very loving with all that stuff. With my aunts want to give me hugs or they want to give me kisses. I feel like a little kid. I'm like, okay, okay, give me hugs and kisses. Come on.
Do you have any costumes that you're gonna try to get you want to influence your kids to wear, or you still let them pick their stuff every time?
I mostly let them pick whatever they want. I mean, I would like to dress up my my son in like, a Frankenstein costume or anything like that, like full on costume. But no, I just let them pick whatever. My oldest daughter, she's gonna be 10 this year, and she just picks like cute costumes. One year she went as like My Little Pony. Another year she was like a unicorn, and she just picks cute stuff. But I mean, my son, I want to try to get him into more horror stuff because he goes into the spirit store and he's fine. He laughs at the stuff. But my daughter, she curls up next to me and she starts hugging me and crying that she doesn't want to go in. And I'm like, just go in there. It's all just plastic and animatronics is nothing real. But if she sees like one of those huge spiders, she'll like run away. And I'm like, oh man. But nah, she picks cute costumes. Hopefully, with my youngest daughter, we could probably do more stuff because she's more she's tougher than the other ones, really.
So you feel like you have more room with getting something done with her then.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, nice. Well, awesome. Well, Al, I appreciate everything. I think that was everything I wanted to go over, and I again appreciate you taking time to come on the podcast. Tell everyone where they can find you to subscribe, like, and follow your podcast, and follow you on social media.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you can just go to iTunes, search the Halloween podcast. You can subscribe there. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/the Halloween podcast. We're on Twitter at the Halloween pod. And you can send me emails, the Halloween podcast @gmail.com. And I'm everywhere. Follow me, like me, listen to the show, review, and all that good stuff.
Well, I think your show is going to be extra popular this month and continue to be popular because, like I said, I've been listening to the last few episodes, and I've been, just going back further and further, getting into all the episodes. So, as everyone else should, and then keep tuned in for upcoming episodes. You got some special episodes coming up for Halloween.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff. I'm trying to keep the 31st a secret, but it's going to be something pretty cool. We got I got some more horror movies coming. We got some more sitcoms coming because those are always fun. More short stories. Got more ghost stories coming. If you heard the one with Hannah, she's got a lot of personal experiences that we talk about. So got more of those shows coming. A lot of good stuff coming. We got about 20 some odd more days to go. So yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Oh yeah, plenty of content. Sounds like you got a backlog to get out there. So everyone go check out their websites, check out Twitter's, Facebook, and everything, and also keep in touch with those short stories because I've been enjoying those so far as well. But for everyone else, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast. Subscribe, like, follow, and rate the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and YouTube. And don't forget to find the podcast on PoopCulture Network website at PoopCulture.com. And just stay tuned for more nostalgic Halloween themed episodes for the rest of this month. So thanks, and be excellent to each other.